So now we have the brilliant topic which talks about brand strategy for client acquisition, how to create a PR strategy that converts ideal customers. I'm so proud to invite our next speaker for today, who wore a lot of hats as magazine editor, content marketer, outreach manager, and managing director. Please welcome Anna Morrish.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. It's great to be here. So yeah, hopefully, will you be able to? Can you see my screen now, or perfect. Yeah, so we've got a lot to cover. So yeah, we're going to be talking about three core elements as part of this. So we're going to be looking at the goals that we need to be setting first off. If we're going to create any kind of strategy, PR strategy, brand strategy, we need to be focusing on our goals initially. So we're going to be looking at what goals you should be setting. We're going to be looking at your personal brand as part of this strategy as well. And we're also going to be looking at obviously the activity that you need to be putting into place to get there as well. So first off, goal setting. Let's have a look. So what do we need to consider if we're going to be setting some goals to acquire some customers to help our business grow and help our agencies grow? Well, first off, I think it's really important to be realistic. I think, we sometimes kind of have these really big ideas, but it's also important to think about each step along the way. So have a look at your previous performance, and therefore we can then think about what we can achieve in the coming year and maybe in the next 5-year plan as well. So think about what clients did you acquire last year, what marketing spend did you require as well to acquire those customers, because we need to have a look at obviously what money it's going to take. Time is money as well, so obviously you're going to be having to put some time and effort into this. So let's have a look. So first off, if you want more clients, which, you want to acquire more clients, we need to think, okay, well, how many of those clients do we need? And also, what kind of businesses do you want to target specifically as well? So I think it's the specifics that's important here. So do you want to work with really large businesses that have marketing departments, or do you want to work with smaller manager or owner managed businesses? Because the two are quite different. And then start painting a bit more of a picture. You'll be quite familiar with this, I'd imagine anyway, doing some persona development with your clients as well. But think about, do you want them to have a set value each month? So are they retained clients? What does that person look like? Are they in a certain industry? Is it a certain contract length as well? So what is the lifetime value of each of those customers? And as I mentioned before, we need to think about how many new customers do we need as well to achieve the goals that we want. So if we want X% growth, what is it going to take to get there? And also you want to make sure you're getting the right customers that also align with you. So to do that, when you think, okay, we'll have a look at maybe your forecast. So something we've literally just done. It's create our forecast for the next financial year. So we run June through to May. So we've gone through that process of looking at all potential expenses, looking at customers that are going to be renewing at a certain time as well. So obviously we want to make sure that we're keeping a lot of the customers we've already got. Also then putting in place and looking at, okay, well, we've got this amount of customers. This is where we want to be. So how many customers do we need over the next few months to make sure we hit those targets? So setting those targets is really, really important as well. If you haven't got a forecast, I recommend getting one set up. If you haven't got one as well, I would recommend backdating it for maybe the last 2-3 years, just so you can see over those years, like how many customers did you actually acquire over that time? How many customers as well have stayed with you year on year? So then you can start thinking, okay, well, where do we need to fill in the blanks? Is there something we need to be doing in terms of customer service, or maybe we can be upselling people as well? So have that information to hand. And then also something that I would recommend doing is just looking at kind of, what brands you want to be looking at, and set up that vision board. So if you know that, one of the industries we work in quite heavily is technology. So for us, it might be that we want to work with a specific tech company, and I would put that logo on my vision board. Same with if there's a set amount of kind of clients or turnover that I want, I'll put that value, that specific value on my vision board. I want to see that particular number. So flaky numbers we don't do, just general we don't do. It needs to be specifics. And the same as if there's certain events that you want to go to, or if there's events you want to speak at, make sure it's specific. And then we need to think, okay, well, to get to those or to reach those goals, what are we going to need? So we've already mentioned that we're probably going to need some marketing spend. We're going to need some time to do it, but maybe we need some extra resource as well. Essentially, you're going to need people to help grow the business. You might want to think, actually, at this point, we want to outsource for now until we're in a position to hire internally. So have a think about that as well. And also, if you're hiring in your business, it's really good for PR. And that's something obviously we want to be promoting within our companies, and something I'll be talking about shortly. But yeah, if you've got more people coming on board, make sure you're writing that press release. Even if it's just local coverage, it's going to be valuable to you. And next, we want to be thinking, okay, we've got our goals set. Now I need to think about personal brand, because you need to clearly define what it is that you stand for. No company in any industry can really succeed if they're faceless. People want to know who's behind the business. What is it they stand for? What are their values? So that's what we're going to be thinking about next. So who are you? What is your story? And that goes for whether you run the agency, whether you're the founder of the agency, or whether you're a member of the team. Everybody should have some kind of story and journey to kind of share with the wider world as to where they've got today. And then think about, those customers that we want to acquire that are part of the goals that we've just set. We want to make sure that their values also align with ours. Values are super important, as was previously mentioned in the other talk. I think sticking to those values and really having honed in on them is very, very important. If you've not set them already, go through the process. Think, okay, well, what are our core values? Set it out, share it with your team, and share it with potential clients and existing clients as well. Because I think it's important for everybody to know what it is that you stand for, because it helps you connect with your audience and your target companies as well. So to go a little bit more into that, I want to share our values so that you can kind of understand a little bit how kind of the process looks. And I think it's, just to show that it's really, really simple. So something that anybody that knows me will know is that I'm super duper honest, probably overly honest, or brutally honest, as some would say. And everybody in the company here is the same. And that's really important as well. So sharing those values with the existing team, but also with anybody new that comes in. So being honest is very, very important. So again, even in the work that we do, if something isn't working, we'll be quite open to the client and say, this isn't working. We're not going to try and cover it up at all. We're very honest about it. Being integrous, again, is very, very important to us. So yeah, being true to us and our values. And something that actually came up with a prospective customer who's actually just come on board was the fact that we work in a way where we won't ever work with a competing company. So if a client comes on board, they know that they've got our full attention. We're not going to work with anybody else that's literally trying to get the same kind of business that they are. And when we mentioned that to the customer, they actually said, oh, well, when we was working with another agency, we had to request that. They weren't open to it at all. So that's something that they really, really valued. And again, I think that helped actually kind of tick that box and make them sign at the end of the day. So sharing those values is very, very important, which is why it's also important to write them down. Being inquisitive. If you're in an agency, if you're doing marketing, if you're doing web, whatever it is, you're always going to be inquisitive anyway. So I would expect that to be most of your values, or one of your values for all of you here. Being accountable, again, I think having that accountability, no matter at what point you are in the business, which department, is very, very important. And again, I say, if something hasn't worked, it's fine. That's absolutely fine. Like, we learn from the things that don't work so that we can also make things work. So being accountable for them is just a learning curve. And being collaborative, again, is so, so important to us. We are the type of company where we work with we work with our competitors. Essentially, we work with other agencies, we work with other freelancers. We like to pay things forward. So if we do get a company that says, you know, they want to work with us, but we're working with somebody already in competition with them, we will obviously explain that and pass that forward to somebody else that we work with in the industry, so another agency that we know and like and obviously trust to do well for them. So we're not going to just turn anybody away, but we work, you know, very collaboratively, and we're always open to building relationships, which is very, very important. And once you've set out your values, the next step is to build a mission statement off of the back of that. Again, just a short paragraph, it doesn't have to be anything long, but just so that you've got that set in stone, so that you can think, if you know, if somebody comes up to you and they say, well, who is it, what is it that you do, what do you stand for, you can say, okay, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, and it's just really, really clear. You can share that with new team members as well, so that they obviously have that clear view of what your goals are and where you stand. So that's part of obviously building that brand, and is having those values. But it's also about personality. And when you're looking at acquiring new customers, you've got to have something that resonates with people. There's got to be that kind of hook, or something that they think, oh, I'm comfortable contacting this person, because acquisition is the engagement element. So marketing is great for getting the exposure, but it's the engagement element, the acquisition that we're looking for. So you've got to ensure that people are comfortable coming to you, that they maybe have a similar kind of personality, but that you click, essentially. So it's important to do some soul searching. Think, okay, well, these are my values, but who am I? And okay, well, what kind of things stand out for me, and what can I build on? And for me, I often get told that I come across as really excitable, and one of my jobs when I'm talking to prospective clients or even new existing customers is to get them excited about the work that we're doing. So being excited is one of my core personalities, but then there's, you know, I'm also very empathetic, and that always comes across. I'm always willing to listen, I'm very kind, so yeah, there's all these different elements that come to it. So think about what are your personality traits, and what can you then build on, and how can you then use that to come across in anything that you do to build that relationship, and obviously build that persona online. I'm going to share now two personal brands and two people that is highly likely you'll be aware of them. If not, especially Carrie Rose here. If you've not heard of her, I assume you've been hiding under a rock, because she's everywhere. And I've included her because she has a great personal brand. She knows who she is. She's outspoken, and she is formidable. And so I couldn't do this presentation about PR and personal brand, and obviously then acquiring customers, and not include her. She shouts about the people that she gets on board, both in terms of the employees and the team that she brings on board, but also the companies that she's working with and wants to go for. She's very, very open about that. And again, that comes down to her values and her personal traits, and the personal traits that she's got. And when you look at the kind of coverage that she's had previously, there was one that I found that it was quite random. That I've actually linked it in this, and I think the slides will be shared afterwards, and I'll also put them on my SlideShare. And one was about ghost face. It was an image that was, I think it was on Snapchat or something, and she got on the Daily Mirror for that. And then more recently, there's the Selling Her Home article that she's had published. So she sold her home, I think it was in like 3 weeks. She did that when no other real estate person could do that. So yeah, she's been very open about even the personal PR and the media coverage that she's getting, because if she can get it for herself and for her business, then she's showing that actually she can do it for other customers as well. So yeah, it's just kind of her showcasing basically what it is that she does. And I'm sure you'll all be aware that, you know, these creative digital PR campaigns is the core of her business. And yeah, she shares various different PR campaigns through that Twitter there, that you can see digital PR examples. That's on Twitter, and I highly recommend that you take a look at that. But yeah, she's just one example. Another example is Aries. So she's the founder of Women in Tech SEO. Again, very open, very again, I would say probably formidable. You know, she's a no-nonsense person. She is very outspoken, but if you follow her on social, she talks about, even just the music that she likes. So you can start kind of understanding who she is as a person, even probably some of the bands that she liked as a youngster, and therefore kind of what scene she was in. But you start painting a picture of who she is, and then you think, oh, actually, I've got that same interest. And you think, well, I can engage with that person. And that's how then they start acquiring new customers and start kind of building that reputation. So again, she's one of these people that if you look at her, she's very open, but she pays it forward with anything as well. So yeah, she's got various different ways that she does that. She's obviously got her events. She's looking at getting people to write on her blog as well. And likes to get people involved. But yeah, another great example of a personal brand that works very, very well. And it can seem a little bit scary when you're thinking, well, I need to build this personal brand. But it's not as scary as you think. It is literally just pushing yourself out there and just starting to find your people. And it will happen. It takes a bit of time, takes a bit of effort, but you will get there. So we're talking about kind of that building that personal brand, but how does this come into acquiring the ideal customers? We've touched on it ever so slightly, but as I say, it's all about driving that action. So how do we do it, and what actually works? So this is a picture of me early on in the year. So to give you a bit of backstory, I came back to work full time in January after having a baby in August. I actually started back to work 3 months after having a baby, but it was kind of a staggered return then full time in January. And when I returned, I'd delegated a lot of the client work that I'd previously been doing, so that I was actually able to come in, and my focus was literally on brand development, personal brand development, and client acquisition. So I had to think, okay, well, what is it that I need to be doing to acquire more customers? So I had no pipeline at that point. I'd had that time off, so I had to build this basically from scratch. So the first thing was, okay, well, I need to get out there, and how can I do that and get in front of people? And it was events. So I started reaching out to lots of different people that I knew that were running events locally, nationally, and even internationally. And I highly recommend it to anybody. It was an amazing experience. I actually talked about the fear of taking time off. It was a very personal story. So again, it helped me to get my personal brand out there, allowed me to express my values whilst also showcasing who I am and what my personality type was. And I had so many people come up to me afterwards sharing that they thought it was really inspirational. They liked how deeply honest and gritty it was. But yeah, it was a really great experience. And just so you can see just some of the events that I would recommend pitching to, here's some. Obviously, SE Ranking were kind enough to invite me to speak as well today. But there's some great events that I would highly recommend if you want to build your personal brand and you're looking at acquiring customers. This is a really good place to start. Something else that I did was actually reach out to local universities and local schools. They often work with different startups, and they work with different organisations that are within the communities and obviously trying to help businesses to succeed. So I did a few of those as well. I'm also member of lots of different organisations that run other events. So it's just a case of just email them, just see whether they're accepting people. And if not, if they're full, just say, if anybody drops out, would you potentially consider me? It's never a bad thing to ask. But also, when you're doing these talks, it's great to share on social media. It helps build that authority, helps you get seen by lots of people, see it increasing that exposure. I mean, even literally from this talk today, there's so much content that I can take out of this presentation and put on social media. I can obviously then tag different people. It helps build that community. They support me, I support them, and vice versa. So you're starting to build all of those connections and that community and that collaborative community as well that you then become part of. So, get some of these events kind of booked. If not, if you can't get anything, if everything's booked up, create your own. There's no harm in doing that either, and starting to build your kind of authority that way as well. There's also various different communities. Here again is just a snapshot of just some of the communities that you can get involved in. So also earlier I mentioned Women in Tech SEO. There's a Slack channel for them. There's also a Facebook group for them. There's the OMG community as well on Slack. So Vicky Simmons, who is talking later on today, her and her partner run that really good supportive network. So if you have had time off, or you want to learn more, or you want to get involved in events, just ask, like join these communities and ask people, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction as well. Obviously Facebook groups, there's LinkedIn groups, there's Reddit, and there's also a lot of Discord channels that are committed to marketing, SEO, digital marketing, PR, the whole shebang. So take a look, and get involved in some of those conversations. And then we've got podcasts. So, there's so many people out there doing podcasts at the moment. And people have said, well, why don't you set up a podcast? And I think, well, yeah, I think I could do that. But at the same time, people that are running these podcasts know that it's the guests that they bring in that actually gives the value or provides the value there. So if I was to create a podcast, it's a lot of time and effort and editing and all that jazz. So actually, my time at this point is better spent asking people to be a guest on their podcasts. So go out there, have a look at, maybe there's some that you're already listening to, just ask them. Go on social media, just pop them a tweet or send them a message, a DM, and say, is it possible to get involved in your podcast? I've got X, Y, and Z to say. I want to talk about this experience, or whatever it is that you've got to say. They're always looking for people. So yeah, it's just important to ask. I did one recently from Majestic SEO. I know they're always looking for the speakers that have knowledge and experience they want to share. So again, just reach out to them. And conferences and exhibitions. So this is something that I think it's important to always scope out if you're going to think about exhibiting. I've been to some before, and I've been to some good events. I've been to not good events, some where people have literally just a pop-up banner, or people are literally just on their phones. But then I've seen really good setups and people are still just talking amongst themselves and not kind of inviting people in. So I think it's important, if you are going to these events, scope them out. And then if you're going to go, really put in the effort and make sure the people on the stand are really friendly, they're approachable, so you share your values as well. And then think about, okay, well, I'm doing all this good stuff. I want to get in the news. I want to get in the press. This is an example of just some local coverage that we got. Something we are quite known for is, supporting different charities and organisations. One year I think this was a couple of years ago, we supported a local dogs charity, and yeah, it was like, actually, I'm doing this, let's tell the local media, because it might actually help them get more funding. So yeah, we got some coverage in the local press, which is really good. Obviously shares kind of what we are like as a company, and allows people to see that as well, that we are very open, we want to help the local community, we want to help different charities. And then there's also this piece that I did recently with CIM, Chartered Institute of Management. This was actually a response source request that came through. And it's about calling in sick and if it's a thing of the past. And for me, when I was having the interview with the journalist, it was about sharing who we are as a company in terms of culture. And then obviously I can showcase that to people. I shared it on social media, shows obviously who we are as a company, which is great for encouraging new members of staff to talk, new members of the team to come on board with us. Or if companies see us as well, they think, well, actually they're really good, they're just a normal down-to-earth company. But yeah, all I was sharing really was that we're adults, we don't micromanage, we are very open. So if you're sick, you're sick. It's just something that it used to cause me terrible anxiety. But these journalists, they are looking for content, and it doesn't always have to be that, oh, I'm an agency, I have to only talk about agency topics. No, talk about what means something to you, or talk about your experiences as well, because that's what they're after. And if you help them, then you scratch their back, they'll scratch yours. So you're building on that relationship. And then there's also case studies. So these are all different things that you should be doing as part of your kind of your PR campaign, your PR strategy. And case studies are, if you've got a really good case study about a campaign that you've done. So for example, we're about to write up a case study for an interactive content piece we've just done. We managed to get that into Tech Radar and even in Forbes magazine recently, and that's like literally going viral at the moment. But yeah, so we're obviously doing a case study on that. that helps us acquire more customers, not just because we can be specific about the industry, but we're looking at the service as well. So again, something that was mentioned earlier is like what is your niche, and focusing in on that. And content and digital PR is one of the areas that we focus on. So yeah, we want to obviously put a case study out about that. That does help us then get coverage in more specific industry magazines and publications. So I can say to a publication, this is what we've done, this is how we did it, and obviously I can also talk about it. So all of these things are a combination really of what you should be doing to help build your reputation. This is all PR. It helps you gain visibility, but more important than ever, you should be consistent with any of this kind of activity. So don't start like doing some of it and then start and stopping. It's got to be consistent. So make sure whatever you're going to be doing and what you're planning to do is going to be manageable for you. If you are still doing a lot of client work as well as managing the business and trying to grow the business, you're probably going to want to scale things back a little bit. So maybe you want to do one event every other month, for example. Social media, it might not be every day that you're posting, it might be every other day or once a week even. Whatever you're doing, make sure it's going to be consistent and manageable. And remember, a lot of this stuff actually takes outreach time. You've got to email these people, you've got to do the follow-ups, you've got to do a pitch deck, you've got to do the run-throughs. It's not just as simple as, oh, I've got to talk, cool, I'll go and do it on the day and wing it. You can't. There is prep involved as well. Another thing to have a think about is entering awards. So something that not all businesses do, but actually it's really good for PR. As I mentioned before, we've also got hiring new members of staff, so you're growing. If you change office, again, that can be a really good news piece for local news. But entering awards is also really great for PR and, as I say, building that reputation. And a few useful tools. So, you're getting all of this coverage, you're getting in front of different customers, you're sharing your values. That's going to resonate with the right types of companies that you want to work with. So some useful tools to be looking at as well to help you along the way. One would be HubSpot. You're doing all of this like promotion. You want to make sure that anybody that then comes into your website, so they're familiar with you, they've seen you or your brand, that you can then hopefully follow up with any activity. And they might not be ready to engage with you right now. So HubSpot, even the free account, gives you access to prospects. A bit like lead forensics, so something you'll probably be familiar with regards to lead forensics. Some of you might also be quite familiar with this, but I'd say I look at this once a day minimum. This is just a blank screenshot really, but it shows you the different companies that are coming to your website. It also shows you the types of pages that they're viewing, also the amount of times that they've viewed as well, so if they keep coming back and back again. And then usually if I see a company that actually, I think I'd like to work with them, I'll connect with them on LinkedIn, and then start up conversation, start building that reputation and that relationship. And again, as you'll likely know, it takes around 7 touch points before a company will engage with you. And it's the same, for your customers as it is for you and your agency. So getting in front of them and doing that LinkedIn activity or Twitter activity is still important as well. So as I mentioned, HubSpot, response source. So that's where I'm getting those journalist requests. If you want to get in there before anybody else, I would recommend setting, if you pay for this service, recommend setting that to receive all of those requests as they come in. Some journalists do have a really rapid return rate or turnaround time. So you want to get in there quick. Also Harrow. So Harrow is another one that is very, very valuable, really, really useful for getting kind of international coverage as well as UK or US coverage. Homes for Media. So I recently came across this and I've been using it for some of our clients. So it's a way that journalists, very much like Twitter, they're putting out their requests for different stories. But when you look at the journalists and when you get involved in the community on there, these journalists, they're freelancers that are working on various different publications. So they might be working for a home relative company or publication. They're also working for, general news media or international news sites and publications. So it's another good place to have a look if you haven't already. and Muckrack. Again, it's very similar to Response Source, not just that from the media request side of things, but there's a media database as well with the same with Response Source. That's really, really useful. But again, it shares all the different articles that other journalists have been sharing. So again, if you've had a certain experience, so go back in your career, think, okay, well, what's been my journey? What would somebody else think that, or what would resonate with somebody else, or what could somebody else may have experienced at the same time, or had the same experience somehow? I think, okay, well, I'm going to pitch that story and see if they'd be interested. So have a look. I say Google and have a look at those journalists, but have a look on Twitter as well. I have found recently with regards to journalists, a lot of them are not just on Twitter, but they are quite active on LinkedIn. So we're using a lot of LinkedIn requests and messaging through that platform, as well as, you know, just Twitter, and being responsive that way. But it's important, I say, to just have that consistency more than anything. It's consistency is the key in anything, and as I say as well, communication. It's being open, honest, it's being authoritative, but authentic as well. I think, you know, I see so many business owners or agencies as well, that they'll be really, really formal to the client, but when they're back in the office, they're just really laid back. And if you're laid back, don't try and be anything else, because that one, for one, is going to be exhausting, but you're also not being true to yourself or true to your customers. So yeah, I'm open to any questions now. If you have any, I believe, let's have a look. I've got some questions. There we go. Lots of comments coming through. Let's have a look. So yeah, as well, one thing I was going to mention, if you are thinking of putting in any pictures for talks, I'm happy to look at them. You know, you're not necessarily going to get every talk that you pitch for, but I'm happy to even just vet it a little bit if you need any advice. Yeah.
Awesome. I was just speaking in mute that, Anna, that was so brilliant. I was just going through all your bits and pieces and brilliant examples. And I'm like, when you showcase that slide when Carrie Rose was there, and I was like, okay, next will be Aries. And you quickly came
Yeah.
up with Aries. So it was like
Oh,
pretty
she's
bang on.
awesome. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I recommend following both, and they're like Carrie and Arija are very different people, but they've got such strong personalities.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it is always, an honor to learn from them, to be very honest. Yeah. Okay,
definitely.
so
Yeah.
we have a couple of questions for you, Anna. Um, okay, so I see one from Stephen. Hey, Anna, I'm struggling to align my brand strategy with my clients' goals and values. Got any tips for me?
So yeah, I would go back to the drawing board first off. So if you're, I mean, I don't obviously know what this person's client's goals or values are, but if they're struggling, I mean, usually what I would do, and I go through the process, not just year to year. I'm reviewing it on a regular basis, but I look at, okay, well, what are my clients? Do we have the same values? Am I learning something from them? If you're learning something from your clients still, then there's still value in that client, you working with them. So that's important. Are you earning from your clients? If you're not earning and they're taking up your time as well, too much of your time, which is common, then you might want to let them go. So I think maybe it could be that you're not working with the right clients. Sometimes I understand it's, you need to work with as many as you can to start being able to have that growth, to then let people go. I get that. But at the same time, if they are taking up too much of your time, you might be better off actually letting them go, so you can focus your efforts on acquiring somebody that would value you and your time and share your values as well. So yeah, but happy to go in a bit more detail if that person wants to reach out.
Okay, wonderful. I guess I'll take just one other question, which is from Jacob. How do you leverage storytelling and emotional appeal in your PR strategy to connect with your ideal clients?
So it's a hard one. Do you know what? We work with so many people that they think they haven't got a story, and when you go back to it, everyone's got a story. And think about the conversations you are literally having with your colleagues day to day, and there's probably a story in it. I mean, even an example, on Monday, one of the guys in the office mentioned that their kid's going to school and they're not going to be able to get alternative milk. There's a story there. You know, there's a government scheme here where children can get cow's milk, but they can't get alternatives. And there's allergies and there's all sorts of different things. So then we thought, well, actually, there's a lot of different things here. And actually, we're also working with a foundation where the woman that runs the foundation lost a child due to an allergy. So that again is something where again there's a story here. Why are we not hooking these things up? They've actually set up a petition since, and that we're now supporting a petition to get alternative milks in school. So that's a story there. So I think it's really delving into who you are, what is your story, and sometimes it's having that conversation with somebody, and it can be another agency owner. It doesn't have to be, you know, it can be even just a friend. It doesn't have to be anybody professional, but they can say, well, why did you get into what you're doing right now? You know, what drives you? What is your purpose? What is your end goal? What do you love doing? So it's all these kind of questions, but it's just weeding them out. It's difficult, I think, sometimes to do it on your own. So I think, yeah, just saying to somebody, look, I really need some help. Can you help whittle this out? Then yeah, and again, happy to kind of have a session with somebody if they want to work out what their stories are. Then happy to do that as well.
Absolutely. And maybe I can, ask questions, and maybe, someone whom from I want to, get my own story out, my own values out. Maybe that can happen
Yeah.
during a conversation and something like that.
Yeah, it's all about experiences, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's the only way that we find the stories is through the experiences, and most of us are sharing different experiences, but we don't talk about it. And that's why I did the talk in Brighton, you know, about having a kid and having all these anxieties, but no one talks about it. And even like the whole, I basically I've run this agency for ages, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, do I know what I'm doing? And you get that imposter syndrome. It's stupid, but you think, you know, why am I thinking that? But there's other people that are feeling the exact same, and that's part of my story. So
That's
yeah, it's yeah.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. If there are any other questions, they can tag you on Twitter, and maybe they can connect even later as well
Yeah.
at the end of the event, right? Okay. Thank you so much, Anna, for being here, for such wonderful insights, and stay with us till the end.